A pinch me moment for the pod. Welcome, Mr. Ed Chamberlin.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for having me. Bangladesh it was. How do I best describe it? Yeah, I got my pants firmly pulled down by hunters all over the world. And there's no more exciting 12 minutes in sport than the Grand National. That was the biggest break of the lot, yeah. Suddenly the journalism was put to one side, and suddenly I was thrust into the TV world, and then built a career on Sky Sports News, and then opportunities come in life, don't they? And then the midweek soccer special job came up, and I had a go at that, and that suited me because I like fast-moving TV. What an experience that was! You know, Jeff Stelling did Soccer Saturday, obviously, and I do the Tuesday and Wednesday. I was on my way to ITV to become the face of horse racing, thinking to myself, this will be easy. Oh my God, how wrong was I? Didn't really have any idea what I was letting myself in for.
Talking of a baptism of fire, I think that was a very challenging first day at Cheltenham, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the understatement of the year. You do need a bit of luck. But when you get that luck, you get that opportunity, it's down to you. Take that opportunity. What I would do if I was a youngster, I'd be getting as much journalism as I could on my CV. If you're on TV, my advice would be don't talk too much. Less is more. Less is more. Des Lynam was the king. Never used to speak too much. On big days, he'd keep it very simple. He'd come on Grand National Day and just simply say, big day today. That's all he'd do.
Big day.
Into the VT. Genius. Absolute
Love
genius. Any youngster, I would, give it everything. Try and fulfill and then live that dream. And that doesn't mean, I'm an example of my heart wasn't set on working in TV when I was young. I didn't go on TV until, that first show at Sky was 1999. You don't have to go to college or university and study media studies. Show you've got a really good brain, work hard, and go from there, really. It can take you anywhere you want to go if you're determined enough. So journalism, take those opportunities, particularly that social media gives you. When you get that opportunity, you just never know. You just never know who's watching, who's listening. I'm a great example of that,
Position. Annie Power at the last race down. Annie Power has gone in front of the last left. Melody Light by the first time. They're running up towards the finish, and he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely. Roger Lockwood and Hoyt. From Archibald, Hardy is the defensive title. From Archibald, who's flattened out in second. Then he's fallen out right by. He's beginning to power. He's drifting off the trail line. Gonna win his fourth Betfair chase, and Cordo Star is still the king. Cordo Star wins.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tailed Off. This is a No Horsebar podcast that dives headfirst into the wonderfully weird world of horse racing. And today, for those eagle-eyed, we got a very special guest today, lead presenter of Sky Sports back in the day. Covered Monday Night Football and Super Sunday, so you've probably seen his face there, if not on the racing channels. First appeared in Sky Sports back in '99, vice chairman of the Injured Jockeys Fund, and most recently crowned presenter of the year at the Broadcast Sports Awards. A pinch me moment for the pod, and we're very happy to have you on, Ed. So welcome, Mr. Ed Chamberlin.
Thank you, guys. What a lovely intro. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. It's great. Thank you, Duncan, for twisting Ed's arm a few months ago to get him on.
Chewed his ear off, bless him. As soon as I saw Ed in there, I was like, right, I've got to make a beeline for this and see what I can do.
Couldn't say no in person, could he?
So he may have had a glass or two of champagne by that stage, but he was very kindly to say thank you.
No,
very
I was
much.
driving actually. No, that wasn't the
Oh,
case
wait,
at all.
no champagne at all for you. Just me then that was on that.
That's the
list.
charm.
I was making the most of it, that's for sure.
Quite right.
Ed,
Right, let's get into
the
questions then. Yeah. Go on, Duncan.
Yeah, I was kind of wanting to start off, Ed, like I've kind of seen a couple of bits of your podcasts you've done in the past and things, and we wanted to kind of start back in the early days, the informative days for you of when you first found your love of horse racing. From what I understand, I think it was 1981 and National with your grandfather, going back a bit of time there. And when he backed, was it Spartan Missile? Went off 8-1 favourite.
Well, I did, yeah. He let me. Yeah. And I was fuming because I thought he'd been given a terrible ride. How old would I have been? 7 or 8 at the time. And I missed the story of the race completely. That was oblivious to me, the fact that it was probably one of the great, not just racing stories of all time, but one of the great sporting stories of all time. Valdeniti's comeback with Bob Champion. And the jockey on the second was a story because he was 54 years old. He was an amateur called John Thorne. And I was fuming because I thought Spartan Missile should have beaten Aldeniti with my p each way or whatever it was. But yeah, that race completely hooked me. And then Shergar came along a few months later and won at Epsom by most of the straight. And yeah, It was too late then. Horse racing had properly got me. But none of you were even born then, so I'm very impressed you even know that.
I wasn't far off then, to be fair. So I wasn't too bad.
Yeah, don't be fooled by Duncan's baby face.
No, 81. If you were a sports fan, 81 was unbelievable. You know, with Botham's Ashes, and there was just so much going on then, and the world was a very, very controversial place with what was going on. And crikey, it opened your eyes back then.
We won't even get on to talking about the Ashes today, do we? Or will we even go down
It's
that
not too
route?
bad. It's not too bad.
It's all right.
But what was it about in terms of the Grand National and that first kind of experience with your grandfather? What was it that kind of drew you into that the horse racing in general?
Well, I say it now, still all these years later, I think it's the best 10 minutes. It's probably close to 12 minutes these days, but I reckon there's no more exciting 12 minutes in sport than the Grand National. And it was a big family occasion, which made it fun to start with. Everyone used to come round and you'd have a giant sweepstake. So everyone was involved in the National. Family members who knew nothing about racing, to my grandfather who was passionate about it. He'd always back a grey or a Scottish horse. Hence his record in the race was absolutely terrible. In my lifetime, he never even got close to having a winner, because Rubstick won before I was born, and then he was long gone when I presented one for Arthur winning the National in 2017. Yeah, it was just a race and an event and a broadcast, really. The BBC used to do it so well that just totally captivated me. It was that and the FA Cup final. FA Cup final day used to be non-stop. You know, used to set aside pretty much the whole day. It's very different these days. Pretty much set aside the whole day to watch the cup final with the teams in their hotels. And then, it used to be exciting when they used to get on the bus and drive to Wembley. And I just remember it so clearly. But the National was even bigger than that for me. And it was the first thing, the first sporting event that properly captured me.
Absolutely amazing. We love it. And kind of then coming forward, I guess, from that, then you went to Exeter University for a degree in politics. And then you kind of started to go out to the racecourses of Wincanton and so on, Exeter, during the week, Thursday nights.
I was a terrible student, honestly. And now my daughter's doing exactly the same thing. She said to me a couple of years ago, bless her, she said, "I don't want to be like you, Dad." And I thought, fair enough. And now she's doing exactly what I did, politics at Exeter University, without the racing element to it. She likes her racing, but yeah, I didn't used to miss. My granny's grandparents, after my grandfather had died, just loved me visiting on a Thursday. But I love visiting as well. She'd bung a few quid in my pocket and send me off to Wincanton races on a Thursday afternoon. And yeah, Newton Abbot, Exeter races, top of Halden Hill. Didn't do much politics, if I'm honest, but had 3 fantastic years.
As it turns out, it didn't seem to matter, because then from there you kind of went into the BHB, the graduate scheme?
Yeah. And this is something, you know, youngsters ask me a lot, what's the best route into sport and into racing? Certainly is. These graduate schemes are very good now. I went in very early times, as you say, as the BHB. That's how long ago it was. And there was only 12 of us, I think, on the course in those days. And that's grown. And I speak to the graduates every year on that. And then there's Godolphin Flying Start, and the Racing Academy now is excellent, the Media Academy. So there's lots of avenues in there, and social media and so on. None of that existed, obviously, when I was trying to get into it. But if I'm brutally honest, I really wanted to work in sport. I hadn't nailed down the fact it had to be racing. But once I applied to this course, then it pretty quickly became a definite option. And in life, when a door opens for you like that, you have to take it, don't you? I'm sure you guys have been similar in your careers. When you get the opportunity, you take it with both hands. And racing suddenly became my focus, going on that BHB graduate scheme, and 2 weeks in Newmarket, and then got sent to Ladbroke. So it wasn't really what I wanted to do, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, sort of earning your stripes, isn't it, a little bit?
Yeah, you learn about life. You know, I learned very, very quickly. It was a baptism of fire going to work there. Opened my eyes big time. I was in racing parlance. I was very, very green, very green. My mum had bought me my first suit. What a disaster that was. No one wore a suit. There weren't many graduates there.
Lots have seen that, yeah, first day.
Yeah, I stood out like a sore thumb, I think it's fair to say. And yeah, I remember my first day, they said, right, sit down, price up the World Darts Championship. And I'd never priced up anything in my life. But Phil Taylor was just coming on the scene then, and he should have been, I think he was an odds-on chance, I think. And I got it totally wrong, and everyone laughed at me, and I had to learn very quickly.
Not to kind of drag into the getting something wrong, but I think it was one of the things as you described it, the ultimate cock-up, or the almighty cock-up you had in the Cricket World Cup.
Yes, yeah. Oh, there've been a lot of cock-ups in my career. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I got cricket wasn't big then at all. And the whole betting world was very, very different. You know, that was in the 90s. was a very, very different world, just before the internet came in, and there was a lot of skepticism about punting, and it's impossible to imagine that on a first division game or a Premier League game you couldn't have a single bet unless it was on the telly. That's how betting worked then. It was trebles minimum if the games weren't on TV, because there was a lot of fear, I suppose, about the way sport worked. And anyway, I was the sole cricket odds compiler. I had all my chips on Pakistan. I mean, all of them. They were a great side, Shoaib Akhtar, and one of the group games, I got it badly wrong. I think, Bangladesh it was. How do I best describe it? I got my pants firmly pulled down by punters all over the world. And you didn't know the damage. These days it's all on a field book and on computers. And racing, the racing markets we used to have a field book for, so you could see the damage on the computer. I didn't realize the damage I'd done in that, what was an innocuous group game, really, until the next day when the betting slips all came in and I'd been absolutely filled in on Bangladesh. I can't remember what price they were, but I got that one very wrong. And I quickly realized then I didn't think bookmaking was going to be my career.
Writing's on the wall there, was it? Yeah.
A little bit.
And then how did it move on from there? Because then you started, was it your own kind of business that you went out with? You had a venture of your own in terms of media, and that kind of kicked off a little bit. That was all going kind of very well. Was it a magazine or something like that?
That's right. Yeah, it wasn't my money or anything. I just got a start with it right from the off, really. It was called Sports Advisor magazine. And it was a bit ahead of its time, to be honest. It was a magazine, it was a website, it had tipping lines and all sorts. Very much focused on spread betting and fixed odds betting, to be fair. And it very nearly made it. Around the 2000, 2001, a lot of firms like that were worth a lot of money on paper. We were worth a lot of money on paper. And then the dot-com crash happened and we were very quickly worth absolutely nothing on paper. But it was a lot of fun. I became the editor of that magazine, and we cover all the big sporting events and had some really good writers. The late Julian Wilson and Mark Winstanley, they did a high roller, low roller column. We had, can't remember his first name, Shields, a big owner. Eddie Fremantle used to write in it. Steve Till did the rugby league. We had lots of good football writers. Ian Botham used to do our cricket. It was big at the time, and very nearly got it right. But I used to promote it. I used to go on Bloomberg TV because spread betting and Sporting Index and Spread X and all that kind of stuff was a big market for us. So every Friday, I used to venture into the city to do a show called Spread Your Bets, it was called, on Bloomberg TV, talking about the weekend sport. And again, just shows anyone out there, if they want to get a career, you need a bit of luck, but you just never know who's listening, watching, like this podcast. You just never know who's out there. And I used to go in on a Friday, didn't take it particularly seriously because I thought I was a brilliant journalist and a great editor, neither of which I was, by the way. And I just went and talked about sport for the weekend and the sports betting. And little did I know the deputy head of Sky Sports was watching and liked what he saw.
Yeah, amazing.
And that brought you into the whole Sky Sports piece. You got I guess, was that your biggest break, I guess, at the time?
That was the biggest break of the lot. Yeah. Suddenly the journalism was put to one side, and suddenly I was thrust into the TV world, which I wasn't really ready for. And I don't think I was very good, but again, I'll keep going on about it. I've had a lot of luck in what I do, but when a door opened like it did there, I wasn't going to need a second invitation to make the most of a chance at Sky Sports. Yeah. And that really was, it was an amazing time, really, because at the end of the day, I was, the magazine was folding. I was out of a job. I had to take this opportunity. I had to. And I had no experience really in television whatsoever, but I talked a good game and I learned very quickly.
That's the way to learn, isn't it? Yeah.
I learned very, very quickly again. It's just like walking into this massive operation that was Sky then, getting bigger and bigger. And at that point, I said to myself, you quickly realize that, Sky revolved around football. Football was everything. And all the other bits and pieces were just add-ons, really. Football was, Sky's world, and the Premier League was taking off, or had taken off, really. And I was doing a show on a Friday night, and that's all I was doing because the magazine had folded. So literally I was looking for work whilst doing a freelance job, I suppose, on a Friday night on a show called 90 Minutes with Kirsty Gallagher and Matt Lorenzo. And that was my work. I that's all I had. And if that didn't work, then it was back to square one.
And what was the kind of
amazing,
your biggest learning curve, I guess, from that took you into, obviously, then you got into kind of Monday Night Football. You got another great break in terms of doing the Monday Night Football piece.
Yeah, there was a fair journey to go until that point. I learned a lot about television first because, I'd never used auto cue. I'd never presented. I'd never done anything really. And I started on that show as they wanted me to be like a slightly sort of spivvy city bookmakery type punter, I suppose. I had to wear braces. I looked like an absolute idiot. Kelly Dalglish, who's a good friend, Kelly Cates, got some pictures of what I used to look like on that show. My God, it was embarrassing.
Need to dig them out.
So they sort of tried to
Yeah.
position you, did they? Like in a certain way. Yeah.
I don't think it's seen the light of day.
Desperately need to find those now.
Yeah.
But I rolled with it. I did the betting and the Opta, and my foot was in the door, really. That's what I was thinking. My foot is in the door at Sky, and then it was a pretty terrible start looking back on it, because Kirsty Gallagher left 90 minutes and took most of the viewers with her. They weren't watching me, I can tell you that. So that show died. Then I did another couple of shows. Then I got a big break. I did a betting show with Jeff Stelling, which if you launch that show now would be fantastic. Jeff Stelling was the best presenter out there. But it didn't work. It was before its time. There wasn't that appetite for sports betting at the time, which is a shame. A good few years later, I think that could have taken off. But again, that was another show that unfortunately came to a grisly end. So I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? And then I got the opportunity on Sky Sports News in 2003, I think we're at now. And again, I thought, right, I need to learn to be a blooming news presenter now, and taught myself, really. I spent a lot of time learning how to use AutoCue, and the Sky bosses wouldn't have known, but I was doing a lot of that in my own time, just learning the ropes. And I was given a chance, and again I made sure I took it, and then built a career on Sky Sports News. And then opportunities come in life, don't they? And then the midweek soccer special job came up, and I had a go at that, and that suited me, because I like fast-moving TV. What an experience that was. Jeff Stelling did Soccer Saturday, obviously, and I do the Tuesday and Wednesday nights, and that really taught me to learn about talkback. And you can prep all you want for those games, but it's all in your ear, really, where the next goals come from, and then you have a stats person telling you how many goals that person scored, and then the person telling you where you're going next and who scored there. It's like the biggest head. I won't swear, but
How do you deal with that?
I don't know how you do.
Imagine.
it fries your head. And I lived in Hampshire, and the whole journey, you'd try and chill out on the way home
Yeah, right.
and try and relax. But I learned a lot doing that show, a lot.
I don't know how you managed to do that, as I think Matt was just saying there. When you've got someone in your ear telling you something and you're trying to say words, I'd just be completely at sea with how you do that.
Listen, I'm not trained to do what you do, so that's what a presenter does.
Don't worry, he doesn't do much. He's fine.
I was going to say, I don't do a lot. I wouldn't worry about it.
But it's the same principle now, which is why I find talkback not easy, but nothing will ever match the hectic nature of talkback when you're doing those soccer specials or those football shows where you're updating scores all the time. So, I've got 3 voices in my ear doing the racing now, which is, compared to a soccer special or a soccer Saturday, absolute piece of cake. I promise you, absolute piece of cake. I can listen and take that info in, no problem.
Sorry, Ed. So a talkback is when you've got people coming in your ear and you've got to try and relay as quickly as possible what they're saying, basically. Is that what you call talkback?
That's talkback, yeah. And there's different types of talkback.
Okay.
I have what's called open talkback, which means I hear everything. I can hear when someone's having a cup of tea, when someone's asking about what they were doing last night. I want to hear everything, because sometimes things are going on in the background. The best example of that would be when there was a protest on Grand National Day. I want to be aware of everything that's going on. It leads to the odd disaster. I remember doing a show with Jamie Carragher where someone in the truck, we call it the truck, said, "Anyone want a cup of tea?" And Carragher thought you were talking to him, so he just went, "Yes."
Oh, dear.
Classic Jamie Carragher.
Yeah, he got used to talkback. They all have, a lot of the sort of best pundits have open talkback these days.
And then that kind of moves you into the even bigger break, I guess, into ITV.
Well, no, because then I had a year out. I was ill for a year in 2009, came back, and pretty quickly the whole Richard Keys, Andy Gray incident happened on Sky. And that would be my big break into big shows, if you like. Andy Gray was sacked, Richard Keys resigned. It was a period of absolute turmoil, because they'd been iconic presenters, done Sky football for 20 odd years. Monday Night Football was their gig. They were incredible. And, I was just a Sky Sports News presenter who did the soccer specials in the week. And I was put on trial for that. And even being on trial took me to a whole new world. The Daily Mail led with the headline "Presenter Idol," and there were the 3 of us on trial for arguably the biggest job in football. I remember Gary Lineker traded as favourite for it. I was a 14-1 chance. That's how big a chance they thought I had.
Did you price that up yourself?
I was going to say, did you price that up?
No, but some of my friends availed themselves of what was on offer, because my game started to get better, and it pretty quickly became apparent that I was in the running for the big gig. Never did I think I'd get it. But that was the day that really changed my life when I got that.
And am I right in thinking that you were doing the presenting for the World Cup when England were potentially looking to get I can't remember which World Cup it was, but Qatar got it, and you were kind of breaking that story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what helped, potentially you thought that's what helped towards it, because every single kind of news
I'd forgotten about
centre across
that.
the world were doing that.
Yeah, so I'd done the World Cup in South Africa for Sky. So I was based over in South Africa, and then came back and I was sent to Zurich for the announcement. Didn't think too much of it, because it was meant to be this great celebration. England were right in the running for 2018, it would have been. And Prince William was there, and they had this amazing presentation. And I was outside the Zurich centre, and I quickly realised this is quite a big story, this. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger, because obviously Russia got awarded the World Cup. England's bid got one outside vote. I think it got 2 votes in total, plus our representative, when we were meant to win the whole thing. So that was a story in itself. So I had that story, which was absolutely taking off. And I had Qatar getting 2022 with the Australians had walked out before the vote was even made. So you can read into that what you will. And so I suddenly had this sports story, and I was the only reporter there who was working for a 24-hour news channel. So in my ear, on Talkback again, Sky Sports News are saying, we're going to stay with you for as long as you can keep it going. And I'm thinking, this is great. So I had all these European news crews gathered around me, getting all their information from me, because I was getting unbelievable info from inside the hall. And I interviewed Boris Johnson. He walked off on me. David Dean was in tears. And they're just saying, keep going, Ed, keep going. So I'm just absolutely in my element, adrenaline fueled. I'd probably watch it back and think, what was I doing? But I was loving every second of it. I had the Finnish TV, Norwegian TV, American TV, all these people hanging on my every word. And then they'd scuttle off and do their news reports. And I don't know, but I think one of the American channels rang Sky to thank them for what we'd done and obviously praised me. And that might have put me in the mix for bigger jobs. I don't know, but geez, looking back on it, that was an extraordinary period, everything that was going on at FIFA. I thought Russia had no chance. I was spreading the story. If Putin's not here, Russia have got no chance, because he'd be here glorifying the whole thing. And obviously there was no sign of him, yet Russia won it. And then the scandal blew up, and it was incredible. I'd forgotten about that, Duncan, actually. Well remembered.
Do try. There you go. I do bring something to this at the very least.
I just can't remember where that fits in, because, I got the big gig, probably not too long after that, maybe. And then I was told I was working with Gary Neville, which was a bit of a shock to the system.
Prism of fire, I'm sure.
I thought, I didn't think that was going to work. How wrong I was.
Yeah, right.
But then we moved into, so eventually after you've kind of gone into the Monday Night Football, obviously what our pod is about the horse racing side of things, you've then been approached by ITV to take over the broadcasting for ITV and be the presenter there.
Which I didn't think I'd be able to do. I was approached in January of 2016, and the football went well. I was really enjoying it. Super Sunday, Monday Night Football were my babies, really, working with an unbelievable team of people who I'm so grateful to. Gary Neville had left. He was with England and Valencia briefly. So it was me and Cara at the time. And then ITV called me, and I was thinking, geez, I quite fancy that. Going back to what we talked about at the start of the show and where I began, the thought of presenting the Grand National just was the first thing I thought about. That would be a dream come true. Never did I think I'd be able to do it, because I never thought I'd be able to get out of my Sky contract, which was watertight, really. And that would be a whole nother podcast, how I managed to do that. That was lots of different meetings and lawyers and all sorts. But I can't tell you too much about it. But Leicester won the league. And then I did a game at Man United Bournemouth, where it was rearranged with a bomb scare. So I said goodbye to everybody, but I had to say goodbye again. And I was done. I was done a lot quicker than I thought I was going to be done. But again, that's a whole other story. And I was on my way to ITV to become the face of horse racing, thinking to myself, this will be easy. Oh my God, how wrong was I? Didn't really have any idea what I was letting myself in for.
Talking of a baptism of fire, I think that was a very challenging first day at Cheltenham, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the understatement of the year. Yeah, there was a lot of build up to it. A lot of opposition to me getting the job, which I understood. And there was a lot of love for Channel 4. He'd done it for so long. And these newbies came along with this football presenter at Cheltenham on January the 1st. And baptism of fire. Largely because, I'd got into every media outlet and I was in every newspaper. Didn't get a wink of sleep the night before. All these crap I was talking about, taking people, I get ribbed about it mercilessly by my colleagues now. We were taking people to the heart of the action. We're going to be right in amongst it. which is great. It's just not great when you're in a monsoon with a howling gale and pouring rain. And there were a lot of water in the works that day at Cheltenham. A lot went wrong, which you could see on screen, a lot you couldn't see. And all my notes were washed away and everything that could go wrong went wrong. I remember Matt Chapman going Bisbo about a license to kill was the name of the horse, or license to thrill, or whatever it was. And the bloody thing was a non-runner. So Matt's going with a license to thrill, doing this great dramatic reveal, if you like. I said, Matt, it's a non-runner. And I'm thinking, this is just a no. Can I just go back to the studio at Old Trafford and the Emirates, please?
The warmth of a studio, please.
Yeah. McCoy was miserable. Luke Harvey's big moment. I remember he had all his mates and all his family watching at home, and he comes, his big moment live on ITV, and it had a great big rain splodge on the camera. You couldn't even see who it was. It was. But I knew, if I'm honest, I knew we were onto something. I knew I was working with a really good team with a great ethos, really good bosses. My bosses, Niall Sloan and Mark DeMuth, who'd taken that risk on me and backed us to the hilt. It was a difficult start, but I knew. Well, I hoped it would get better from there, and thank goodness it did.
Continuing on that theme, I imagine some people would have said to you, "You're absolutely mad for leaving what would look like an absolute prime gig on Sky for more of a niche sport, albeit on terrestrial TV." Kind of, was that sort of thing going through your head at the time, and how did you deal with that?
Do you know what? You make a great point, because even now, so how many years later? That was 2017, 8. We're in our 9th year. And I swear to you, if you and I went into Andover tomorrow, to Tesco's or anywhere tomorrow, someone would stop us and say, "Why did you leave Premier League football?" I mean, it's ridiculous to think. It's 9 years later, and it's still the question I get asked more than any other. As if to say, they want to say, "Well, that was the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. Why did you leave the best gig in the Premier League for horse racing?" And I just say to them, really, I just fancy doing something different. I love what I did. I'd done it for a long time. I'd done that job for 6 years. I just fancy doing something different. It's as simple as that, really. Yes, it was a risk, but I immediately really bought into what ITV and those bosses I refer to, Niall Sloan as the head of sport and Mark DeMuth as the head of sports production. I really bought into what they wanted to do. And all that time I thought, I'm going to present the Grand National on that Saturday in April. That was in my head. That's the thing I wanted to do more than any other. And the fact is, on the way, I got to do all these big events and the Cheltenham Festival. And after that, I had the thought of Royal Ascot and the Derby and Goodwood and York and all that kind of stuff. So I had a lot to look forward to. It was a very difficult start, and I had to answer a lot of difficult questions after that. I had a lot of stick. In those days, I've learned a lot since then. Social media used to play a big part in my life then. I used to actually listen to people on social media, and it was really, really abusive what I had to put up with there. And Gary Neville was a real sage for me, and I learned more from Gary than anyone I've ever worked with. Ruby's brilliant now, that as close to Gary as you'll get. But Gary always taught me, in life, it's never as good as you think it is, and it's always never as bad as you think it is. And I got a lot of abuse in the newspapers. I remember in the Times, the new face of racing was described about as exciting as a self-assembly chest of drawers from IKEA, which was quite hard to read.
Jesus.
And I got a message off Gary and just said to me, just remember, it's never as bad as you think it is. You're going to do all right. And I really took that on board, and I just let the abuse come, and just increases your determination to prove them wrong, really.
Yeah. Especially you've got that one goal,
in
the future to head towards. So I was just saying, like, just the passion for the sport and the goal in the future, like it sort of drives.
Yeah, it's hard though. It's hard though, mate. It's hard when you're, I coach a lot of youngsters, about presenting, and a lot of it's about, dealing with the stick you have to take, and social media is irrelevant now, really. It plays no part in my life whatsoever, really, anymore, which is sad, really. And that's not the real world. It's just not the real world. All the abuse you're taking is just not the real world at all. I just hate the thought of youngsters reading stuff that I have to put up with at times. That it doesn't worry me. It just really upsets me to think they might have to do that. The only reason it upsets me is because of my kids, really. But
it is crazy. Like, we obviously set this pod up, like 3 mates, just like horse racing, just thought, I twisted these guys' arms to set it up, because I feel like
it was your idea, was it?
Well, I feel like they got a lot of value
at the time when this was decided.
There might have been a few beers, but I just thought, they, like, especially Elle, who's been in it from a long time, like, he's got a very detailed view of horse racing. For me, like, I'm fascinated. I've only been in the game 4 years or something, and I still know 1%.
Welcome to my world, yeah.
But even like some of the we're not a tipping service, but we share what we think is coming up at the big races, who we think is going to win and place. But even some of the comments we get back is just hilarious, and it's just like, I mean, we laugh.
I hope you can laugh at it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like at the same time, like, You know, some
So
people
abusive.
don't, right? And it's like, hold on, we're just sharing this. You don't have to look at it. You don't have to watch it. Turn it off. You know, it's fine.
Yeah. and that's where, that's the biggest challenge in what I do, really, is the fact that in my job, my brief always from day one was to try and broaden that racing audience, to try and make horse racing relatable and relevant to a big sports audience. And in order to do that, you're going to annoy an element of the horse racing fraternity, if you like, which isn't that big when you think racing TV. If you're a real racing guru, you subscribe to Racing TV, which is a fabulous, fabulous service, but it would have 64,000 subscribers. Now I've tried to broaden, and with the team, not just me, obviously, broaden that audience to make racing relatable. And we broadcast, Tingle Creek on Saturday. You'd like to think we'll get 7, hopefully 800,000 people watching. A big, really big Saturday, you're looking at 1 million people. And you've got that small racing audience who will make a lot of noise and not like certain things we do. But my response to them is, we're showing horse racing on an entertainment channel. We've broadened the church of people watching. It can't be for you all the time.
Yeah,
Our aim is to try and make it for you some of the time and try and make it for everybody is what we're always trying to do. And that will alienate some, it'll piss some off, but that's my job, That's why probably I'm never probably going to win a racing award, but to win a sports award is pretty satisfactory, if that makes sense.
Well, that's it. It's all about the future vision of the sport. You got to get the masses, get more people interested, and the younger generation as well. So.
Yeah, there's that. There's the way that, it's in the sport's interest. The sport is financed by betting, let's be honest. And I want as many people as possible watching ITV. If they have a bet, great. We talk about betting all the time. And I see a lot of what we do is people's first steps into the sport. Someone like you, Matt, could watch us and hopefully be entertained. And then think, I quite like that. And then maybe that might lead to you thinking, I fancy getting part of a syndicate, or I might take out a racing TV subscription, something like that. That's how I'd like things to evolve. And that takes a bit of explaining to a racing audience who want it done their way. And isn't necessarily the way to do it.
Well, I did it the other way around. I went straight into a syndicate, not knowing anything about horse racing, which I wouldn't recommend. But
I bet you enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. Elwood just hooked me with 2 words, which was owner's enclosure, and I was in.
Yeah, there you go.
This is what I spoke to you about, Ed, at the premiere when we were there. Yes. So when you did for El's birthday, his 30th, you did a nice message to him, and you mentioned the horse that all 3 of us were involved in, See the Eagle Fly, which is finally. We had it with Harry Whittington, so that was I think Matt's and certainly my first part into ownership.
And did you enjoy it? What was that experience like?
She won her first race, which was just unbelievable. Unfortunately,
was it? That was lockdown, wasn't it?
So there's only 6 of us could go as owners.
COVID times.
Okay.
The trainer told us not to expect much, and she comes around the home turn swinging on the bridle. we were a bit surprised. Yes, we started dreaming of Cheltenham then. To be honest, we thought no further leave it come. But
fantastic.
She did.
I love that though, and you can see I love when I'm presenting that for me, selling the sport. You guys, okay, there was only 6 of you there in COVID, but the joy, hopefully, that you'd have had there, get that across on television, and hopefully people at home think, oh my word, I want a piece of that. That's what you're trying to do all the time, which is actually easier in the winter probably than it is in the summer.
Yeah, I guess with the when we watched the premiere of the new series of Full Gallop that's obviously out now, I loved how everything was captured though, and I think they've done such a good job in showing the behind the scenes, the things that the average person when you watch ITV normally you may not get to see, or just going to a race course day, you don't see all of this stuff, behind the scenes, talking to the jockeys in the weighing room. And then I think the stories that come with that as well, like the whole Nick Rocket story with the owner and things, and having him there as well to talk about it, it's just unbelievable. And I think that's the other thing that you fall in love with horse racing when you get into that, the stories that go with the horses and the people that are behind them.
And that series is a prime example. In racing, a lot of people have been critical of it, and yet you've got to realize that's what they're trying to do with that series is entertain people who aren't racing fans. And hopefully people will watch that again, get a taste of it, and see those stories. Some of the stories they told, Freddie Gingell in episode 1, the champion hurdle stuff was amazing. Then the smaller yards up in Scotland, and then the Nick Rocket story in the Grand National. They told so beautifully with the father and son combination winning, and the owner who'd lost his wife. And racing's full of those stories, and those are the hooks. Those are the hooks you're always looking for with ITV or Champions Full Gallop that get people into our great sport. At the end of the day, that's our job, is storytelling, really. And racing throws up some unbelievable stories. Unbelievable
It
stories.
really does.
With those stories, like, is there a story that in your head that stands out from horse racing that you think this is just the story? I just love this.
I've been lucky enough to have a few. Listen, we've won 2 BAFTAs. Those are probably my favourite stories to have told, really, because we obviously told them well, because that's how you win. The best we've had probably would be Honeysuckle, that the second BAFTA. That was the most emotional, highly charged day I've ever had on a race course. That was raw. That was really, really raw. You went there that day just wanting Honeysuckle to run well, really, because she in herself was a superb mare, former champion hurdler, obviously. Then you had the Rachael Blackmore factor, the biggest name in the sport, as part of the Honeysuckle story. And then you had the trainer who'd lost his 14-year-old son in the pony riding accident in Ireland. I mean, what a mixture that was, just going into the race. And I just remember I was really nervous because it's a real responsibility presenting a race of that nature. I just remember coming out of the paddock and the place was just electric. And I think my words were, here she comes, Rachael and Honeysuckle for one last dance. And always when you're presenting, the bigger the occasion, the bigger the nerves, the slower you speak. And I spoke very slowly that day and let the pictures do the talking. Didn't need to say too much. And those shots of Honeysuckle coming back in, and she couldn't come in down the middle. It was too crowded. Rachael and her had to come down the side. And for any dad to see Henry de Bromhead's reaction that day, I defy anyone not to have a massive lump in their throat, because his punching of the air, Duncan, had triumph in it. Yeah, it did. It was a great triumph, and she was a great mare, but it also had a lot of anger in it. He'd lost his son. You can't imagine what he and his wonderful wife Heather and the 2 girls were going through. They'd lost their brother, and there they were in the winner's enclosure at Cheltenham, and it just had everything. The best way to describe it was just so raw. And I had a 20-time champion jockey, the greatest jockey Cheltenham's ever had, so emotional they could barely speak, actually. So I quickly realized this is down to me, and I just didn't say very much. I just let the pictures do the talking, and to win that award. And I was very keen to dedicate it, because in my world, forget individual awards, to win a BAFTA is just the pinnacle. And it was very important to dedicate that to the de Bromhead family for everything they'd been through. That was an unbelievable story to try and tell. Yeah, a sad one, really, really sad one.
Yeah, I think the one that I don't know, Elle, you've probably got, and you could probably share one as well. I think the most poignant one for me in recent years, apart from obviously the story of Sprinter Sacra, the horse itself coming back, but I think certainly last season at Cheltenham with Michael O'Sullivan, and the horse, he was due to ride. And obviously winning the championship, the Queen Mother Champion Chase, at the same time. I can't remember the name of the race that we...
Grand Annual, Jazzy
which
Matty.
was... That's it, the Grand Annual.
So
Jazzy Matty.
that was, oh my goodness. So that Tuesday is actually up for an award itself, which would be quite fun to win. Because again, that was raw. You're so right. Yeah, the Michael O'Sullivan tributes to start the day off. And then you had the most dramatic champion hurdle you'll ever see.
Yeah.
It was the next day when you had those 2 winners, Marine Nationale and Jazzy Matty. Good knowledge, Elliot. Yeah. And you just thought, this is utterly surreal.
Yeah.
And Cheltenham, I swear on my life, had a big, dark, black cloud hanging over it. And it was as if he was looking down. And it was extraordinary. I'm just, you think of so many. I've had sadness. I've had just total elation. I've had so many different things, but I think the most seismic day was probably when Rachael won the Grand National. That was a moment where I just thought, this is I'm presenting history here. I'm presenting an event that may not ever happen again, an event that made headlines all around the world. And again, it was during COVID. It was a bit like your day at Fontwell. There was absolutely no one there, which was so sad.
Yeah.
When Rachael said to me, I can't believe I'm Rachael Blackmore, that was just like, oh my God, what a line that is. Yeah, that was, and she'd won everything at Cheltenham a few weeks before. She was making history then. That was, I always said before that nothing would ever match Aguero scoring that winner with that Tyler commentary at Man City that day. I thought I'd never match that. But I think Rachael winning the Grand National certainly matched that, if not surpassed it, really.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that on terms of the stories, because I do watch the Sporting Life podcast every week and enjoy that. And often you're kind of, when they're previewing the racing for the weekend ahead, you're kind of looking at it very differently to your colleagues on there in terms of how am I going to sell this to an ITV audience? Whereas, anoraks like myself will know the programme backwards, know what races are coming up and know what to expect. But Do you kind of, they're always obviously conscious of that each weekend? And are you sometimes struggling to find what are those hooks for the audience?
Not at this time of year, I don't struggle. I'm always told, that Cheltenham dominates the jump season too much. That's just not true. I mean, this is a fabulous time of year. The start of this season was a bit of a struggle because there wasn't any rain. Normally it would take off earlier, and the November meeting was a little bit subdued at Cheltenham because that's normally lift off for the season. Yeah. But since then, it just hasn't looked back. We've had a couple of sensational weeks. But yeah, that's exactly what I do. Listen, I'm a sports presenter. I'm not, your Nick Lucks and Lydia's and all these guys. They're better racing presenters than me, let's be honest. I'm a sports presenter, but I know my brief. I know what I need to do. And I'm glad you say it comes across on the Sporting Life podcast because those guys are brilliant. The Timeform boys. Graham Cunningham is as good a racing journalist as there is. I think he's fantastic. But I am coming at a different angle. And I always explain the way I do things. I have 3 rules when I present anywhere I'm presenting. This can be hosting an event. This could be going to a school. This can be presenting on ITV. I ask myself 3 questions. What's my audience? Because every show you do has a different audience. Every event I do has a different audience, and you've got to find a way to engage with that audience. So my midweek audience on ITV is very different to a Saturday audience, which is generally people who probably had a long week at work and just want to relax and be entertained. So don't get in their face too much. Likewise, when I used to do Super Sunday, after lunch on a Sunday, very relaxed, while Monday Night Football was much more in your face, stats-based, a real sort of football anorak's dream. So you present very differently according to your audience. You host very differently according to your audience. Number 2, what's your tone? You've got to get your tone right. If it's an upbeat afternoon, then reflect that in your tone. When it's a downbeat one, I screwed up. If I could have 2 days back, I would do the Derby, Serpentine's Derby. I got that tone totally wrong. I thought it was a miserable experience at a miserable place with a miserable race. Forgetting the fact, the Derby was people's escape from the misery that was happening around the country. And I was a complete misery and got a lot of stick for that, learned from that, and, got my tone right, I think, after that. And then the third question I ask myself is, what's the story? And that's what you refer to there. What is the story for any show, any race, any weekend? And I've got my stats book in front of me here. So I'm preparing for, you can see it on camera, I'm preparing for the Tingle Creek here. Oh, nice. Saying, what's the story? I'm asking myself, what the story? The story is really, in the space of 20 minutes, you've got 2 fantastic races. We go Beecher Chase, Tingle Creek. So I'll start on Saturday saying, sit tight, whatever you're doing this afternoon, make sure you're with us 2:30 till 3:10, really, because you're going to see 2 of the best races of the season, potentially. And what's the story there? For my audience, it's John Bond, really. Only one horse has ever won 3 Tingle Creeks, Flag de Puberales. So he's trying to make a piece of history. You set that out at the start. And yeah, always saying to yourself, what's the story? What's the story? What's the story? Which means I look at things differently to your Graham Cunninghams and the Timeform boys. But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Yeah. It's just the way I do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong either. TV's subjective. A lot of people won't like it, won't like me or won't like the way I'm doing it. But that's the way I do it. I'm very lucky because the ITV bosses like it. And, at the end of the day, we're dictated by numbers. Numbers dictate my life. And when numbers are good, watching racing, I'm happy. And at the moment, numbers this time of year are really good. People love the jump racing, which is great.
No, I know we're all jumps fans.
So that was a very long answer. I went into work mode. I apologize.
No, really good.
I was just going to go on. I'll just ask one final one and I'll give someone else a go. But just you gave us a bit of an insight there and showing some of your scribblings and your research for the weekend. I suppose we obviously just see what you do in front of the camera, but kind of give us a bit of an insight into what goes on a race day behind the scenes.
A lot. I'm very lucky. I work with an amazing team of people, humans and, work ethic behind the scenes on ITV. Richard Willoughby and Paul Cooper lead the way. They're the 2 sort of main editors leading a fabulous team of people. And people always say, why are you so motivated each week? Well, I don't want to let them down. I absolutely love the ITV family and who I work with. I don't want to let down a person who's done a nice VT. So I want to make sure I get the link into that right to do it justice and so on and so forth. That's really my mindset. They are just the best group and I love working with them and I want to do them proud. I'm the face of it and I want to do them proud, really. So preparation for a normal week. So this week, for an example, I'll always watch back the previous weekend as any presenter or host should. I'm very critical of what we do. Monday, I try and forget about it, to be honest, have a day off on Monday. Tuesday, we have a production meeting at 11 o'clock and feed in stuff from the previous weekend that was good and was bad. Very honest and upfront. And then we start planning for the weekend. So we throw around some ideas. One of my ideas, actually got it from John Frankham, and we'll probably do it on Saturday morning, is to look at the 2 falls last weekend, Constitution Hill and the New Lion, half screen each, top Constitution Hill and the New Lion, and try and work out why they fell at the same hurdle in exactly the same way. Why was that? Why was that? That's the question I'd like answered. So you're coming up with ideas all the time. We're going to open up looking back at the brilliant couple of weeks that racing's had, and then throw it forward to the story, which is the Beecher and the Tingle Creek. And then until Saturday, I'll just prep. Like today, I've just been prepping. I've got my rundown, my script from the producer. So I know the plan. I put it all into my own book, into my own words. And I prep far too much, probably. This is sort of a Gary Neville and Jamie Carragherism, because they work so hard. They are relentless, those guys. I learned so much from them, and I prepare a lot. The skill of a good presenter. A bad presenter will prep all this and feel like they need to blurt it out to the audience.
Say it all.
No.
Yeah.
No. I prep a lot, and I'll just pick and choose the bits I need. It's all there for me. So I'll have this all finished by tomorrow night, and then have dinner with the team, bit of bonding, have a glass of wine. But I want to be finished. So I sleep well Friday night, and then Saturday, my entire day is all newspapers, stories. What's everyone saying? I'll get to the racecourse, and then I'll just talk to people. I'll talk to them, because the pundits, I've got Luke Harvey and Mick Fitzgerald with me. They're my team. So we'll work together, come up with ideas, rehearse quite a lot, to be honest. A lot of what you see looks unrehearsed, and you want to make it look as natural as possible, but a lot of it will have been rehearsed. So preparation. But the skill, and it is a bit demoralizing, because I'm doing all this work, and I'll use probably between 5 and 10% of it. But as Richard Hoyles always teaches me, any presenter, if you've got all your new paints, you've got all your new paints for Christmas, and you go to paint the sunset, and a crap painter will just paint what they want to paint and use the new blues and greys or whatever. But if it's a pink sunset, you just use your pinks and your reds. And as demoralizing as that is, because you can't use all your new paints, the best painters, the best presenters just pick and choose the bits you need to tell the story. So I could research all I want about Loda Sood, and I'll have a load of information on him. But if he gets beaten the Tingle Creek, that's gone. It's no use to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
That's really insightful. Yeah.
Massively.
And that you should take that principle into anything you do in life, be that an exam,
agreed.
be that a presentation you're doing in class, be that something you're doing at work. Prepare. And if you don't, you'll get found out.
That was going to be one of my questions was, obviously our audience is sort of your racing anoraks, but also those that maybe are looking to get into sort of presenting as well. So what would be like the one bit of advice that or the one tip that you'd give for those newbies that are looking to get into a similar sort of role?
To get there, or when you're doing it?
To get there, to get into presenting, into sports broadcasting.
Listen, I'm not going to lie, you do need a bit of luck. But when you get that luck, you get that opportunity, it's down to you. Take that opportunity. What I would do if I was a youngster, I'd be getting as much journalism as I could on my CV. We're all journalists. If you're working in sport on television, you're effectively journalists. So get as much journalism as you can onto your CV, be that local radio, be that local newspaper. You've got so much more opportunity now with the way social media is. I'm full of admiration for you three doing what you're doing. Brilliant. Fantastic. There's nothing to stop other people doing that. There's nothing to stop you writing, be that a blog or articles. There's nothing to stop you. I'd be very disappointed with any of the guys I work with if they turn down an interview with a potential young journalist. I'd like to think that they do everything in their power to say yes. Anthony McCoy is an absolute diamond at that. People wouldn't realize what he does behind the scenes. Inter Jockey's Fun for youngsters looking to get into the game. He's a gem of a human being like that. So journalism, take those opportunities, particularly that social media gives you. And then when you get that opportunity, you just never know. You just never know who's watching, who's listening. I'm a great example of that. I've had a lot of luck with people who've seen or watched or heard something I've done and liked it. And when you get that opportunity, that's the skill, is to take it with both hands, and you have to work damn hard. You have to work damn hard.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
Yeah. Amazing.
If you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
Yeah.
I think so. I would never, any youngster, I would, give it everything. Try and fulfill and then live that dream. And that doesn't mean, I'm an example of my heart wasn't set on working in TV when I was young. I didn't go on TV until, that first show at Sky was 1999, as you said, Duncan, earlier. I was 25, 26. You don't have to go to college or university and study media studies. Show you've got a really good brain, work hard, and go from there, really. It can take you anywhere you want to go if you're determined enough.
Yeah, I completely agree.
In terms of when you are a presenter, if you're on TV, my advice would be don't talk too much. Less is more. Less is more. Des Lynam was the king. Never used to speak too much. On big days, he'd keep it very simple. He'd come on Grand National Day and just simply say, big day today. That's all he'd do.
Big day.
Into the VT. Genius. Absolute
Love
genius.
Love that.
Love
Keeping
it.
on the same track, though, with the
Go
kind
on,
of the younger audience, Ed, One of the
Yeah.
things that we've obviously seen in the news recently is ITV are partnering up again with ARC in the new
Yeah.
year for this Friday Night Live piece, and which is kind of aimed at the youngsters. And obviously, you're involved heavily with the Invades piece, something that you run, trying to bring in the younger audiences you kind of talked about earlier on. How do you kind of see that working? Obviously, it's aimed at the younger population, like students and things like that, having races up at Newcastle, Southall, Wolverhampton and things. How are you kind of trying to turn the attention more to the horse racing, like you say, the stories, aside from, having that as your focus, I guess?
So I'm a great believer at a young age. If you get a taste of something, it might be something you come back to later in life. So I defy anyone to take their kids. Cheltenham on New Year's Day is a great example. Huge family day, over 30,000 people there, always encouraging families to come. And we should do more of it, because what other sport lets in under 18s free? Free.
Yeah.
I mean, Ascot at Christmas on that Friday and Saturday, two of the best days out you can dream of. You can go as a family of 4 to Legoland down the road and spend 300 quid if you want.
Yeah.
I'll come to Ascot for 60, 70 quid. And I promise you, your kids will love it. All the Christmas stuff laid on. But most importantly, go and stand down by the rail, because I think any youngster that watches those majestic animals running and jumping, you're going to be touched by it. And with youngsters, I just always feel they might come back to it later in life when they've got a bit of disposable income. You're always trying to sow that seed. And I'm full of admiration for what Dominic Matcham's done with Invades. I think it's genius what he does. Absolute genius. Getting people to the races, coach there. And he's had a bit of an impact on the way I present, actually, because he's always saying, why are you always so defensive about racing? Why are you always trying to defend yourself about welfare, whatever it might be? No, show off what you've got. Be positive. It's a great day out. Apologies, I've got a streaming cold heading to Sander. So, one, I love what Invades do, and I think it's really clever. 2, I'm not going to be involved in those TV shows, but I think it could really work, because yes, it's going to be about the youngsters having a good time there, but this is Friday night TV for ITV. So we're a separate thing from what Invades are doing there. We're going to just experiment showing Friday night television, which hopefully will be entertaining. Yes, it might have some younger elements to it and music might play a part. At the end of the day, it's the racing that matters. And hopefully people enjoy it. Hopefully people have a bet on it. Gives us a chance to preview the Saturday as well, which is very important. And I just think Fridays just might work. And I know that Invades will sell out, because I've experienced it. So they'll have a great time. We'll try and show some of that. But the TV is a separate part to it. And I'm talking out of turn here because I'm not involved in the production. It's just what I think. Yeah. I just think Friday nights would be really interesting to see if it works, if there's demand for it. Luke and Jason used to have a show on Sky on a Friday night. It was great entertainment.
Oh, it was great fun.
Yeah. Maybe we can channel a little bit of that. And Thursday nights are popular. So why can't Friday nights be even more popular? Let's see. It's worth a go, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree.
And I just think Invades is so clever. So clever. My daughter was at Newton Abbot the other day. I mean, I was just horrified what was going on, but it's so clever. It is so clever. And we need to tap into a bit of that, why it works and what people enjoy.
Yeah, agreed. Ed, we've kept you for long enough, almost an hour, so very generous of your time. Shall we do a quick fire and then wrap up? How does that sound?
Go on. I haven't had any questions I haven't been able to answer yet, I hope.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
All right. Some of them might be a bit challenging, but no, it's fine. There's only a few. All right, we'll start with the horses. So, favourite horse?
Dublin Flyer. Who's heard
Favourite
of Dublin
jockey?
Flyer?
My old man used to go on about him a lot, so it's been driven.
Wonderful horse. Wonderful. One what's called the Mackinson Gold Cup, which is now the Paddy Power Gold Cup, trained by Captain Forster, ridden by Brendan Powell. Great big scopy chaser. Watch him. Go on YouTube, Matt, and watch him over the Grand National fences in the Topham. Absolutely the best round of jumping you'll ever see. You'll love him. You'll absolutely love him. So Dublin Flyer.
Sure. Dublin Flyer.
Most people expect to say Tiger Roll, and I don't.
You've gone so well with Elliot's dad, Ed, honestly. You're talking his language there, Matheson's, all that kind of stuff.
It'll always be the Matheson. It'll always be the Matheson.
Oh, what a race. Beating Egypt Mill Prince. That was sensational. Absolutely sensational. And I was a student then, and that I think it was a 4-1 chance. That was a few rounds bought after that. That was magic.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. All right, then, favourite jockey?
Favourite jockey? God, well, Ruby's my favourite. She's such a good pundit. Luke Harvey's my first name on the team sheet of any ITV racing show I ever do. Mick Fitzgerald's the nicest man in the world, and AP McCoy's one of my great mates. So that's a hard one. So I'm going to say Rachael Blackmore for everything she did for the sport.
That's it.
Good answer.
Yeah, like it. Yeah,
she's taken the sport to places it would never have got. She's an amazing, obviously an amazing jockey, but just a sensational human being as well.
I think Rachel needs a new Rachael Blackmore, doesn't it?
Desperately.
Yeah,
And there's no sign of it, unfortunately.
Really.
Was she ever form part of the ITV racing piece at all?
I don't rule it out. I'm not sure it's on her horizon, really. I'm not sure it tickles her fancy too much. I like the role she's got for Cheltenham, trying to encourage more female racegoers is really clever. And I promise you, when you do stuff like with her, like I do with schools and kids, and she's unbelievable. You would not recognize her. She's sensational,
amazing,
so inspiring, and really connects with kids, which is such a difficult thing to do.
So hard, yeah. You need that in the sport for sure.
Yeah.
All right, favorite course then?
Oh, such a difficult question. This is meant to be quickfire, isn't it? That's such a difficult question. I get asked that question
to the next
a lot.
one.
Oh God, favorite course. Tree's the dream. That's why I left football, really, to present the Grand National. Biggest thing I do by a million miles. The most nervous I get. I mean, that 30 seconds to Grand National Day when you're going on air is the most scary thing in the world. It gets the adrenaline going.
Imagine.
Cheltenham's my favourite 4 days for the racing. But in the summer, it's warmer, it's more fun. So you're Royal Ascot. But Goodwood, I think, is probably, if I had to nail down one as the most fun, enjoyable week of the whole year, Glorious Goodwood is off the charts. Honestly, if you haven't been to Goodwood, you must go.
I haven't been
it's
to
such
Goodwood,
a different
actually.
question. So
I need to try that.
I love Wincanton. It's my local track. I love going up to Wetherby because you're so appreciated there. Every week is different on ITV. There's not many places. I was going to say there's nowhere I don't enjoy going. There's a couple I don't enjoy, but generally every week is magic.
We'll ask you that question then next.
I won't answer that one.
All right. This is a tough one. So what's the horse you'd back for Tingle Creek then?
I still think the differential between Il Était Temps and L'Eau de Sud is too big. I think L'Eau de Sud's definitely the value, and I think they'll come closer together over the next 24 hours. My heart says John Bond. John Bond's the best story to win the race. I just worry about him. He's not getting any younger, and it's just there were worrying signs at Cheltenham last time. But he might come alive at Sandown. No one would cheer louder than me if John Bond was to win the Tingle Creek for a third time. That'd be magic. I think Il Était Temps is too short, and I think L'Eau de Sud is. I won't have a best in the race because it sometimes destroys my concentration. But if I was going to, I'd much rather back him at 5-2. This is Skelton's time of year. This isn't Mullin's time of year. I know he won the Clonmel Oil Chase, but Skelton's on fire at the moment. Willie's playing the long game, as he does so brilliantly. And a lot of his were quiet this time last year, and then look what he did after Christmas. And I think that's probably what he's going to do again.
Would you not be at all concerned about him backing up? He tends to be superb fresh, doesn't he, L'Eau de Sud?
I think he's superb at this time of year. Don't forget, last year he strung 3 really good performances together before Christmas and then tailed off later. I think if you gave, a bit like if you gave me back the protest at Aintree or the Derby in COVID, if you gave Dan Skelton a training performance back from last season, he'd probably missed that race at Warwick and gone to Cheltenham a bit fresher. So pre-Christmas, no, I'm not too worried about that, but I know where you're coming from.
I almost feel that Dan losing, I spoke to Dan at the premiere briefly, and I said to him, good luck for the season ahead. Hopefully you don't get the same lightning won't strike twice. But I feel like that him losing on kind of pretty much the last day at Sandown on the Champions Day there at the end of the season is almost kind of just brought him along even further. Like he's so determined, it seems. Just every single big handicap race there is, or any of the big races you see on ITV, he's winning them. He just can't stop winning.
Isn't that the sign of a really good sportsman? Learning and putting it right. And that's what he's doing. Couldn't do any more. He's a seriously good trainer and a really good talker and statesman for the sport now, Dan Skelton. Very impressive. Really impressed with his interviews this season.
Yeah.
He's learnt a lot. And I hope he wins, actually. I really do.
So do I. I think just speaking to him and seeing, like you say, his interviews, I mean, he's got some lovely horses going to Cheltenham.
And that is why this season is shaping up, touch wood, to be epic, because you've got so many elements to it. You need the love shared, and lots of different people are winning lots of races, which is great. Syndicates are winning, which is great for ITV. Dan Skelton and the Brits look much stronger. Gordon Elliott's winning racing and putting up a fight. So it's not all Mullins at the minute. And there are public horses. Constitution Hill's a real shame because he's the poster boy. Real shame. But you're always looking for public horses. And there are so many good horses out there that the public can relate to over the next few months. It's shaping up. I don't want to tempt fate, but it's shaping up as if it could be an absolute epic jump season.
Yeah, for sure. I think I know the answer to this next
I can't remember what the question was. The
way of Tingle Creek, I think, was what
Tingle Creek.
got on the roll for it.
Would you watch that, Matt? You obviously like your race. Would you watch that Saturday?
Yeah, for sure. So we were there.
You
we
will
were
be watching it because I'm at your house on Saturday.
And these boys are coming around, so
we will be watching it for sure.
So you're bitten by the bug. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. I went to Cheltenham for the first time this year, and I think that was the first time that I was like, bloody hell, this is like this is serious. I went to day one on Tuesday, and it got hooked even more, I think, because it was just the atmosphere, it was the build up as well. And obviously now we're doing this pod, like I'm more invested from now on to like Cheltenham to like understand the build up and all these little milestones for different races that we're doing. So yes,
there's no way back now. You're properly.
I know. I mean, it's cost me a few bob, but yeah.
If you gave me one wish for the season, Matt, it's that more people reflect what you've just said there. So there's a lot of talk about Cheltenham and the crowds dropping and so on. The best way to get people back is, and this is Guy Lavender's attitude there as the chief executive, is the people who went there last year should have had an amazing time and want to come back. That's the best way to do it. And hopefully you're telling your mates it was amazing. And hopefully they'll want to come, because you can't beat it. I mean, Cheltenham at the festival is the best. They really deserve proper crowds, and the crowds to come back, I think.
They really do. And I think Elle was saying that they weren't as big as they have been, but even that atmosphere was the pinnacle for me. So like, if it goes up from there, fantastic. And now I'm going to do 2 days instead of one. So that's, I'm coming back for more.
Great. Yeah, keep spreading that word. Once I want everyone to stay home and watch it on TV, I'd rather people went racing, and, you got Cheltenham packed on the Wednesday and Thursday as well as the Tuesday and Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
They really deserve it. It's a great spectacle there.
Agreed. Last two then. Best and worst co-host.
On ITV.
We promised we won't snip this up and put it on social media.
On ITV.
Well, I don't know.
First, I've got to say Francesca, because she is my co-host on ITV, and I'm really proud, and we're really proud to have a television show with a male and female co-host. You name another sport that's got that. I hope racing likes that, and we're very proud of it. And I would have no hesitation in saying Francesca, because I call the others pundits rather than hosts as well. So she's definitely the co-host. But I think that's a really important thing. So, and worse, crikey.
This is going to be too harsh.
We had a guess beforehand, if you would answer, who you might say. So I'm intrigued.
Go on, who was put in the mix?
No, I can't say until you answer it. You've got to answer first.
And I'm so lucky. They're all, I haven't mentioned Jason Weaver yet. He's one of the best pundits in sport, and they're such a great gang. I get on with all of them, really. I didn't always get on with the ones in football. My biggest disappointment, I might answer it this way, my biggest disappointment was I never got the best out of Thierry Henry on Sky. And he's gone on, and I see what he does on CBS, and I really kick myself because he's such a great character. I never got that out of him at all, actually.
Yeah.
I look back on that with a bit of regret. Didn't get on with a guy called Laurie Sanchez at all. I had a row with a guy called Alan Mullery when Rooney scored with his overhead kick. So I had some, some good rows with the studios, people I didn't bond with. Who are you going to say? Come on, Duncan. Who are you going to?
Well, we had it between potentially. I was thinking more Matt Chapman potentially, not as in a worse like a co-host or presenter or someone that's on there, but just his mannerisms, because I think he's a bit like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. He's one of those kind of characters.
I think that as a viewer, you might. He's so important to what we do, Matt, because
100%.
Without Matt, we might be a bit safe. I know my mother wouldn't be a big fan of his, but she wants to watch him.
Yeah,
and he's a really good egg. He's mega bright. He's a brilliant journalist, really brilliant journalist. So yeah, I'm actually a big Matt Chapman fan as part of the team. When you send him up, we're sending him up to Liverpool this weekend. He will work his socks off. He brings energy. He's a brilliant interviewer. He asks difficult questions very cleverly.
He does. And I think that's the thing that makes him so good, like you say, is because he's not afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah. And I was amazed. They had Racing's awards on Monday. They're called the HWPA Awards. I'm amazed he wasn't in the mix for that. And even more amazed that Ruby Walsh was about for, Ruby's in the same company as Ali McCoy's and all these top pundits at the minute, the Nevilles. And we're witnessing something very special with what Ruby's doing. But no, I'm really impressed with Matt. Really impressed with Matt. And I get on great with him, I hope.
It comes across like you'll get on well. So
Well, he's voting for the worst co-host.
You've got to have a little bit of edge there sometimes. We don't always agree, but you want a bit of that.
100%.
Luke, bless him, doesn't get the credit he deserves. Really makes you smile, Duncan, just thinking about it. His chicken wing got 4-point-something million views in the swimming pool. I was so angry.
I remember the chicken wing one.
The guy's a genius. I mean it when I say wherever we go, from Royal Ascot to the Cheltenham Festival, he's my first name on the team sheet. He has a connection with the audience. He is entertainment without even trying, and that's a priceless thing. And Luke's got that amazing. He's got that amazing quality on television. He knows when to be serious, but he also knows when to have fun. And you get that wrong, and you've got a problem. He never gets that wrong.
Yeah, that's a great.
I'm working with him and Mick Fitzgerald this weekend. I haven't seen them for a week. I can't wait to see them. It's true.
I love that. Gutted we're not at the Team Creek now.
I know.
But we have built a really good team, which is what I wanted to do when I joined ITV. They're a good bunch, dysfunctional family.
And that comes across like, it's great to watch. And like you say, you're bringing in the viewers and hopefully expanding the audience. Yeah, it's great. Any last questions, boys?
I've got one, because we've asked every guest this.
Go on then.
Just thinking about racing, the sport as a whole, which obviously you're a very passionate supporter of. If you could maybe wave a magic wand, or if you'd have one wish to change something in the sport for the better, what would you try and address?
Oh my God, how long have we got?
That's probably too big for the
Just
end.
a little one to finish on. Just a little one.
I think I'd because there's so much that needs fixing. I think the first thing I would do is wave the wand to allow someone to try and fix it. At the moment, there's too much self-interest with too many different bodies. I'd use that wand to say, right, you can now sort the sport out. You might wave a magic wand and bring in a venture capitalist, getting a bit technical here, say, right, the sport is yours. A bit like in Formula One, go and sort it out.
Yeah.
Prize money, fixtures, everything like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd use my wand for, to at least allow someone to make those decisions. Because in the moment, it's completely stymied. But that's that you and I could bore your listeners
See
for
what
hours
race
about
course
that.
said. I'll pick your brains on that a bit more.
Hugh McElvenney was an absolute hero of mine, and he described horse racing as having delicious lunacy. And it is deliciously loony, really. It's irresistible, but it drives you mad.
Well, yeah,
It's
it's
a
what
good
I
way to
start
end,
off
I
every
think.
pod is the wonderfully weird world of horse racing in so many ways.
But at the same time, I'm very lucky to be involved the way I am. So
Well said.
I count my lucky stars.
Good. Well, thank you, Ed. And thank you for everyone for listening and tuning in. Any other questions, then please let us know. Hope you liked this interview. And if you didn't, then you know where Ed is. You can go find him. But I really appreciate you coming on, Ed. And it's been fantastic to talk to you for an hour. So thank you again from all of us and all of our viewers.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you very much, Ed. Really appreciate it.
Position. Annie Power at the last race down. Annie Power has gone, but in front of the last lens. Melody Light the first time. They're running up towards the finish, and he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely, Roger.